Welcome back and happy holidays. At the time of filming this, we are just days away from Thanksgiving, making it that much closer to Christmas time. With wanting to get into the spirit, I decided to take some old shells I had laying around and build a mini kit for my youngest to give to her as a present this year. Jumping into it, first thing is stripping all the drums down to the bare shells, removing all the lugs, the badges, as well as the air vent grommets. Then, to make this 10 times faster, with the help of a heat gun, I begin to heat up the seams where they are glued so that I can loosen the wrap and peel it off. This at one point was a 12-inch Mapex drum, but now will serve as a floor tom. And again with the same process, just here on this 10-inch Tama that I will be cutting down and turning into a rack tom. And this here used to be a 16-inch sound percussion floor tom that I will be cutting down into a bass drum. Next, with the help of a screwdriver and some pliers here and there, I just took the lugs apart and washed them really good in some hot soapy water before letting them dry and moving on to the next step. And before the comment section goes crazy, yes, I know this is a huge no-no and powder coating is the way to go, but these were already cheaply done and I couldn't have made it any worse. But after all, I am not spraying over chrome, so it should be fine. After using the Scotch-Brite pad, I then used the heat gun on a low setting to slightly heat the lugs as well as the paint, then applying thin coats of paint, letting them dry in between each one. Also rotating the lugs around to get even coverage as I go. Also, using paint that is for metal will help here more than anything. After letting everything dry and repeating the process with the other colors, I gave them all a final coat of clear coat before setting them aside to dry for a few days. As for the shells, the ones that I needed to, I cut them down on the table saw out in the garage. Then I patched up all the holes that were not going to be used to remount lugs or hardware, and then sanded everything once that stuff dried. After that, I took a couple quick measurements off of the donor shell that I knew these lugs came off of and marked those out on the shells that I need to put them on and got to drilling. After drilling those out with a little piece of backing wood to help prevent tear out, I then went back in with a step bit to clean them up. Or should we call it a Christmas tree bit? Then, not to bore you with this next part, but I just simply painted the shells inside and out with what I had around the house, finishing those off with a couple coats of clear as well. Onto making the little bass drum spurs, I simply took an old MIJ floor tom leg and cut it down to fit into these little pieces that I just happened to have stashed in my goodie box. I ended up cutting them down using an angle grinder and then taking them and loading them into a drill with some sandpaper to clean them up. I also had these little rubber feet that just happened to fit on these perfectly, and to mount them on permanently, I'm going to use some baking soda and super glue. To simply make the snare, I took some old wires I had laying around and drilled the holes out that were already on the wires to receive these screws that I have, and matching that pattern on the actual shell and drilling and attaching it all with some nuts and bolts. I cut the wires a little bit longer than halfway and put it in like so. And to hold the snare, I just took an old L-arm attachment and used an Allen bolt to run it down through the pipe that I had cut down. I found a washer and a screw that fit over the end of it and held the pressure down, and boom, done. It was the same concept with the hi-hats, and I just used an old seat bottom to hold it all up with an auxiliary clamp, and I was finished. To send it off, again, happy holidays, and I hope you all enjoyed this build. I am super stoked on how it turned out, and I know the kiddo will be too come the big day. I humbled myself in remembering that building a gift is just as good as buying one, no matter your skill set, and that it is the thought of giving that counts. So go give the family and them drums some love, and until next time, drums, drums, drums.